welcome to our Succeeding in GCSE Languages event. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to come and join us. We always run this evening on the 26th of September because the 26th of September is the European Day of Languages. So it's time for us to celebrate sort of the wide variety of languages that are spoken across all of Europe. Tonight we're going to go through some things that I hope you will find useful for students and for parents in terms of how to do well in your language GCSEs this year. So you can see here the agendas. I'm going to go through welcomes and introductions, language learning in context, our course content, exams, revision and support, what parents can do to help children, and what children can do to support themselves. For Q&A, we've got my colleague Monsieur Doguet here on the chat tonight. So if you do have a question, please pop it into the Q&A box and he'll be working his way through them throughout the evening. And then at the end, I'll have a little bit of time to address any ones that I think are sort of particularly relevant or that have been asked by a lot of parents. Okay, so our Year 11 teaching team this year is for French. We've got Miss Vera, our newly appointed Head of Languages, Miss Murray, Mr. Doguet, our Head of French, and Ms. Montero Peosa. For German, we've got Miss Weines and Miss Koch. For Latin, there's Dr. Guerrera with Miss Bowring and me, Miss Evans. And for Spanish, we have got Miss Buisan Cortez. We have got Miss Dukai, Miss Collins, Miss Vizara, and Miss Fatima Jimenez. We're really lucky that we've got such a stable language team. All of these teachers now have been teaching with us for a number of years and are sort of really well versed in what they need to be doing to support your children. So the reason that we run this event is because we are aware of the fact that language is something that British people often feel is a challenge, and sort of not necessarily rightly, but they have this idea that it's something that English people can't do. You see it in the newspapers every single year. You see things like, you know, tourists red-faced at the inability to speak a lingo. You've got A-level results slumping. You have got the gap widening in foreign language learning. And it all seems sort of a bit doom and gloom. We've got this kind of negative attitude to it. But actually, if you ask British people, they all say that they wish they'd learned a language. I get so many parents I meet during open days, parents' evenings, and things like that, who say, I regret that I didn't do better at languages at school. I regret that I don't speak another language. And so, you know, we want to really make sure that your child doesn't leave Kingsdale with these regrets and that they leave as confident language learners. There are loads of benefits to learning a language. You can see here just a few of them, but you know, financially there are great benefits in terms of being able to get better jobs, have higher earning potential, mental benefits such as, you know, having greater capacity for long-term memory retention, having better mental health. Studies prove that people who speak another language are less likely to develop things like Alzheimer's and dementia later on in life. And so sort of, as well as kind of the cultural benefits and all the doors that are opened up by learning a language, you've also got all of these other benefits that go along with it. And at Kingsdale, we really feel like it's not all doom and gloom and it's not all bad news. Nationally, the situation in the UK is about only 46% of students will take a language at GCSE. But here we're bucking the trend and we're entering nearly 90% of our students for GCSEs because we think it's so important and because we're so well supported by the school in this. We've got massive uptake at A-level. We've got about a quarter of our students at A-level taking a language GCSE, and we have ever increasing and ever improving results. Last year, for example, nearly 80% of all of our language grades were above a grade 5 and 60% above a grade 7. So there really is a scope for your students to do very well in their language GCSEs. So just to sort of break down for you what the language GCSE consists of, we have got for the modern foreign languages, and for modern foreign languages, that is French, German and Spanish, and they are all assessed and marked in the same way. So modern foreign languages have 4 papers, one for listening, reading, speaking and writing. The listening, reading, writing are all done in the exam hall in the summer. The speaking happen a little bit earlier, normally the start of April, and they're done on a one-on-one basis with the student's teacher. You've got a brief overview here of the grade boundaries. So for higher tier, you can get grades 4 to 9. You're looking at needing about 36% to get a grade 4, up to about 85% for a grade 9. They also have foundation tier. On foundation tier, you can have grades 1 to 5, looking from 15% for a grade 1, up to about 64% for a grade 5. We start with the premise that the majority of our students are going to sit higher tier. If we do think for any particular reason that foundation tier might be better suited for your child's needs, then your child's teacher will be in touch with you. It's not a decision that we will ever take without consulting you and without consulting your child. And so, we will hold a discussion with you. So for the first exam week, all of the exams the students are going to sit will be at higher tier. And then following on from that, we'll look at it and make judgments about if any students might be more appropriate to sit a foundation tier. For your resources for our modern foreign languages, French, German and Spanish, all students should now be linked to a Memorise or Quizlet group. Their teacher will have created these for vocab revision. There's largely consistency between teachers between year 10 and 11, so it is likely to be the group that they're in year 10 that should bring forward with them through into year 11. They should be practicing all available past papers on the EdXL website. By revision guide, we've got some of these pictures on the next slide. They're available from Amazon. They're also available in the school shop. Have a speaking booklet that needs to be completely filled in by Christmas. So part of the speaking exam is based around sort of general conversation. We give students booklets that have got suggestions of topics that might come up in the exam. And the better the students fill these in and the better that they start preparing them, then the better they will do in a speaking exam in the end. It means there'll be sort of very few surprises for them. And so here you go. These are the Pearson EdXL revision guides that we're recommending for Spanish, French and German. They've got revision guides, revision workbooks, and they also have ones that target particular skills. So if your child's struggling more with writing or reading or listening, they've got one for the individual different skills there. For the mock exams for the modern foreign languages, we have got the November mocks. There'll be a listening exam that's going to happen in class. And then in the exam hall, there'll be a reading paper. We've got 2 mock exam weeks for speaking exams. So the first of these will happen between the 3rd of December and the 13th of December. Your child's languages teacher will be in touch with you and your children to let them know the exact date and time of their speaking exam. So we give them 2 mock opportunities in year 11. They get a particular time, they're given an exit slip, they're told sort of exactly where they need to be and what they need to be doing. If for any reason your child can't make the mock speaking exam, please do communicate with the teacher so that we can rearrange it and we can make sure that everyone gets sort of the best possible opportunity to practice these, because I think sort of even as language teachers appreciate that speaking exams are probably the scariest bit of a language GCSE. You kind of feel very vulnerable almost putting yourself out there to speak in another language. It can feel a bit embarrassing or a bit awkward, but the more your child does it, the better prepared they'll be and the more confident they'll feel when it comes to the real one. So these mock speaking exams really are vital for them. In the February mocks, we'll have a written paper, and then finally in March we're going to have another round of speaking exams so that they're well prepared before the real ones happen in approximately April. For Latin, if your child's taking Latin instead of an MFL, you've got 3 papers. Paper 1 is a language paper. It's 100 marks and it makes up 50% of the GCSE. Paper 2 is literature. So your child would have started last year learning some poems of Catullus. They'll carry on this year with a few other Roman authors. And in that, they'll sit a paper where they'll ask questions on the text they've seen in class. And they'll be asked to write an essay at the end of it. And then paper 3 is Roman civilization. So again, your child will have already started learning the civilization topics like the city of Rome, looking at the port of Ostia and things like that. And again, they'll be asked some sort of general questions. And again, they'll have to do an essay on that topic at the end of the paper. There are no tiers for Latin, so everyone sits just one tier. So there'll be no discussion with your Latin teacher over whether your child should do a higher or foundation tier paper. You've got a rough grade breakdown here for the different grade boundaries for Latin GCSE as well. For your resources for Latin GCSE, students should again be linked to a Memorise and a Quizlet group. Okay, so Memorise predominantly is used for vocabulary, whereas Quizlet is sort of easier to make flashcards in there, so we tend to put more revision for the literature and the civilization up onto Quizlet to help sort of building sort of more concepts rather than just vocabulary. You will have revision resources. So the Latin department is very good at producing their own revision resources because Latin's quite a small subject nationally. You don't get the sort of mass-produced ones. There's no sort of CGP guides. There's no Pearson or Educator guides. So your child will be given revision resources made by the Languages department here. You could also use the resources on the Cambridge Latin website to practice translation skills. Your child will have been familiar with these from the years of doing Latin, so they'll know how to access this. But if you have any questions about it, please do just get in touch with us. And for the mock exams for Latin, you're going to have a languages and a civilization paper that's going to happen in the first exam week. And then for the February mock, you have 2 papers. One will be language and one will be literature. So just to give you a bit more information about us as a team of language teachers, we are a team of 22 enthusiastic language specialists. I think this probably makes us one of the largest language departments in the country, and one of the very few language departments that still offer 4 languages. We are very committed to ensuring that students get excellent opportunities when they're learning languages with us. We've organised trips to Austria, France, Spain, Italy, Germany. We've also had in-house events, so we've had sort of the Onati Play Company come to us. We've done residential we've done within the UK trips, such as one with the Institute of Cervantes with a walking tour of central London in Spanish. So do keep an opportunity out for opportunities for your child to take part in something that kind of might broaden their cultural horizons. We like to make sure that our resources are as engaging as possible. We're incredibly consistent in what we're doing across all of our lessons. So it doesn't matter who your child's teacher is, they'll be using the same resources and having exactly the same learning experience across all of the lessons. And we work really well as a team to make sure that every single one is delivered in a way that's going to help students learn to the best of their ability. We really value these online tools like Memorise and Quizlet, and you'll hear a lot about that this evening. It makes it easy for us to track student progress. We can see who's going on and who's doing lots of vocab learning. It's also engaging for students. It gamifies it in a way. They can score points. They've got league tables. It adds an element of competition for them. We have native speaker clubs for students who speak French, Spanish, German at home already. And we can enter students who speak another home language for GCSE. I imagine some of you may already have a child who's done a home language GCSE. If you do have a child who speaks a language such as Italian, Portuguese, Polish, or something like that at home, and they haven't yet sat their home language GCSE, please do get in contact with us. And as I've mentioned, today is European Day of Languages, so we always celebrate linguistic diversity. There's been a range of quizzes and events going on in school this week. And we've got a wide range of intervention available for all languages. I know our languages teams have been very proactive in getting out and contacting parents over the last week or so. We've already started running our French Target 9 intervention. I was really pleased to see that we had over 30 students attending that this week. We've also got small group intervention for targeting students at around a grade 6. So if you're interested in that and you've not been contacted by your child's language teacher already, please do email into us on the languages email address that I'll put up at the end, and we'll be able to support your child with sort of different types of intervention. For those of you who are interested in sort of maybe progressing further in your career with languages, we have a work experience link with a local translation company. Every year they take 3 of our sixth formers, and they do all sorts of international translations for things like they've done Instagram translations in the past. And it's something that students really enjoy, and it's something that's really nice for them to have on their CVs when they and their UCAS forms when they're applying for universities and jobs. And sort of leading on to that, we've got all our languages at A level. It was so nice to see so many of you at yesterday's sixth form open day and discuss sort of the merits of A level languages. There are a few more of those coming up, so please do come and talk to us. We'll make sure there's someone representing all of the languages at the open days in case you've got questions about them. So often parents come to us and they say, I didn't do a language at school, or, it's been 20 years since I learned any languages. I don't know how to help my child. So we've got a few tips for you here about what you can do to help your child with their GCSE language exams. Firstly, we would really please ask you to be positive about language learning experience. I know so many people who go, oh, I was terrible at French at school, or, oh, my speaking exam was a disaster, oh, I couldn't do any of it. Please avoid sharing any stories like this with your children, because it's very easy for sort of, as you saw from the newspaper articles at the start, for students to have a kind of negative impression about language learning. It's really helpful if you can always be positive about that and always promote that idea that language learning is such a beneficial thing. Take an interest in what your child is learning, and help them work out how language learning will benefit them. As we spoke about earlier, there's many advantages to being able to speak another language. Think about new school year's resolutions and maybe learn the language with your child. Get them to stick up post-it notes around the house, labelling parts of the house or some new vocab around the house. Test them on their vocab and you'll be amazed on how much you're picking up whilst you're doing that with them. Look through their book with them, and really encourage them to use their book as a learning tool. If you're sort of saying to them, what have you done today in your language lessons, and looking at the book with them and asking them to explain what they've done, that will help them consolidate their learning from class, and it will sort of also encourage them to check their work, look for corrections. Redrafting work that they've done in green pen is really beneficial because you get that sort of memory of writing out sort of words, practicing the spelling, getting the verb tenses and things like that right. Encourage them to read through their notes and prepare questions to ask their teacher for clarification of the concepts that they've not understood. So if, for example, you're looking at the book with them and they've learned a new tense and they're not able to explain it to you completely, maybe get them to write a couple of questions they can ask their teacher so that they can make sure that they do really understand that. Encourage them to prepare bank phrases that can be used on a variety of topics. So your teachers will be giving these out. So they'll have various banks of vocab that they can look at, and get your child to sort of pick out a couple of them that they really like using, that they can use to enhance their structures, so that when it comes to speaking and writing, they're not just saying really short responses, but they're adding extra levels of detail to it. Phrases like, in my opinion, or I would say that, can be added to almost everything. Opinion phrases can be added to almost everything, and it always makes those responses seem more impressive to the examiners. Encourage them to use word reference as a tool for looking up vocab. I know that sort of students very often default to Google Translate, which, although sort of it's remarkable and it's come a very long way, is not always sort of particularly accurate. Word reference is an online dictionary. It shows how sort of words change with sort of either tenses if they're verbs or the different endings if they're nouns. It's a very useful tool. And track your child's progress via Go for Schools. So you have your termly updates on there of how your child is doing. If you're worried about your child's progress at all, please do get in contact with us. Finally, your child will never have no languages homework. Please always encourage the use of Memorise or Quizlet, even if they say they've got nothing. Little and often works best. So students will see massive progress doing sort of just 5 or 10 minutes a day, rather than trying to do sort of 2 hours of it all in one go. I've got some tips as well on what students can do to help themselves. So have a positive attitude towards language learning and coming prepared for each lesson. Just sort of these basic things make such a massive difference. Turning up with the right equipment, bringing your speaking booklet, having prepared for the class is going to make the learning experience massively improved, rather than, if you turn up having forgotten something and then already you're off to sort of a negative start in the lesson. Participate fully in class, ask as many questions as possible. When you engage in your learning, you will retain it better. Research says that sort of what students do in the classroom is what makes the difference in results. So this is kind of like the number one thing that you can be doing. This is sort of more effective than any kind of intervention. Sort of the number one thing is to take part in class as much as possible. You might change your social media accounts into a foreign language. So you can get things like TikTok in a foreign language. You can look up Instagram accounts and stuff like that. All of that will mean that you're seeing sort of language on a regular basis. Every time sort of you turn on your phone, it's got sort of notifications there in French or Spanish or German, and it helps reinforce that language. Test yourself regularly on vocab and ask someone at home to help you. So, get mum and dad involved, get them testing you. You can test them back on the vocab, see if they're learning along with you. Make the most of the online resources like Memrise, again, little and often. Using past papers, so for Edexcel, for the modern foreign languages, and for WJC or Educas for Latin. Try some free writing, give yourself a bit of time just to sort of write about any topic. Think about using different tenses and structures you've learned in class. Hand it into your teacher to get feedback. They will be delighted to do a bit of extra marking. They will be so pleased that you're handing in some extra work. And find something in another language and change the language on your Netflix or Prime or Disney Plus account. Even if you have it in English with subtitles in Spanish or French or German, that will be useful. If you want to practice your listening skills, do it the other way around. Turn it into dubbed in French, Spanish, German. You can always have the English subtitles on there if you want that little bit of extra support or extra reinforcement. Listen to foreign music, radio, news, anything like that. Your teacher will be able to recommend different podcasts that are targeted at language learners. The Duolingo website has some podcasts for language learners on there as well. They're all incredibly useful. And just, anything you can do to sort of engage yourself in language learning independently. Every single thing that you do will really help and will really make a difference. I've got here some students in our sixth form who really kindly took the time to send me a video with some top tips about how to do well in their language GCSE. So we've got sort of a range of learners here. We've got from James, who will tell you that in year 10 he was on a grade 4, that his mock speaking exam was really bad. He ended up with a grade 7. You've got Kyra, who achieved really well in 2 languages. You've got Gabriel, who's studying 2 languages for A-level. So I'm going to sort of pass over to you. And the bit at the start of James is sort of chopped off a little bit. He's telling you that he attended intervention, which was incredibly useful.
Attended them quick, and that really helped and also boosted my confidence. So for your speaking exam, which I found the hardest, I felt I think I failed in year 10. But what happened is I spoke out loud to myself, and I felt that I really got the grip of it and just did it every day, and also got my family members to help me as well. And I thought that really helped. What else? Memrise. Memrise is a really good app which Kingsdale supplies with for free. And just doing a lot of that really helps with your vocab and helps to build up your Spanish vocab and stuff like that. So I was on in year 10, I was at the end of year 10, I was on a 4, and for GCSE I got a 7, and that's a massive improvement. I feel like the best thing to do is a bit every day. I feel that's really helping me to get a 7. So that's what.
Hi, Ra, and I did Spanish and Latin for GCSE, and I got an 8 in both. I think the thing that really helped me was making flashcards of the vocab that I needed to know, which can be found on the exam board website. So for Latin, it's WJCE, and Spanish, it's Edexcel. I don't really know about the rest of them. But I feel like making them into flashcards, whether it be on like Remnote or Quizlet, I feel like it really helped, because obviously vocab is something that you just really need to know, and it gets you a lot of points in, let's say, the writing or in the translation parts. And I feel like it's just such a good thing to know, and I wish I'd started earlier. I started in year 11. I think if I started in year 10, I would have got higher. And yeah, I think that if that is at this stage, I wanted to get 9. And I feel like to get to that, or to get as high as you can, I think that doing your vocab and making sure you do your homework, which honestly seems like, but it's just such a way to help with your understanding, and understanding is key. And making sure you just ask your teachers what you need, because literally they will help you, and it's just such a way of a relief, so you know you've done your best. Hope this helps. Bye!
Hey guys, so I do 2 languages at A-level, and I did 2 languages at GCSE as well. And what I did to study for GCSE, and I still do it now, is I would write down all the words that I don't know, and I use Quizlet to make my own flashcards. I can learn all the grammar that I need to know, all that personalized learning for me, I put on Quizlet and then revise that every now and again. Also, I use Memrise a lot. So if you need to know all of the chapters, vocab, all the content for your exam, that's all on Memrise. So I use that every day. And what's another thing that's really useful is to write down set phrases, kind of complex, interesting phrases that are gonna impress the examiner. So your exams, like speaking and writing, they're gonna be a bit more interesting, a bit more high level with things that you've remembered before. And so you don't have to think of it in the moment. But enjoy studying languages. It's a really cool skill to have, to speak another language, and you're learning another one. So yeah, have fun.
So some really good advice from them. I think, you know, it's really helpful for you to hear from students last year what they did, what really helped them achieve. And you can see that, you know, it is possible to improve your grade by sort of 2 or 3 grades even across the course of year 11. And of course, your teachers are always available to help you with that. Oh. So I'm just going to, I'll come back to the Q&A in a minute, just going to double check if there are any questions in there that sort of are more applicable to sort of the whole group of you listening. Before I go to that, just sort of a thank you for coming. If you do need to get in contact with us, here's the email address for the Languages Department. So languages@kingsdale.southwark.sch.uk. And just a quote from Mandela there that I think really sums up what we're trying to do as a language faculty, sort of trying to sort of speak to people and connect with them on sort of a broader level. Okay, so most of the questions we had coming in are to do with Italian GCSE for community languages. If you want to sign your child up for community languages, then please do email through to us on that languages email address, and we'll get back to you and let you know what you can do for that, and we'll support your child up with doing sort of the writing, the reading, etc. in any community languages. That's it then for me. Thank you so much for coming along tonight. Again, do just feel free to get in touch if you've got any questions. Thank you.